Hello and welcome back, noobs and noob slayers. What is up, guys? Diz Tactical here, and today I'm going to be covering, well, the basics to being a game master, and as well as how to actually be a better game master. It's kind of hard in Arma Reforger, and honestly, I really wish that the devs kind of add a lot more tools for people who like GMing, and also kind of just improve the AI, because it's honestly like an RTS game where you have to micromanage everything, and it's just honestly horrendous. But what we're going to do first on to start us off here is you're obviously going to want to load in as a player. Just again, this is just for purposes. You obviously want to go to the players list, and then you'll want to right click on your person here. For me, it's not obviously here because I'm already it. Then you'll do start vote to become game master. Now, once you've essentially started your ascension into godhood, because that is essentially what the GM basically is you'll want to go into your menu here, click on Game Master, and then as you can see, boom, we have this huge menu. Now, as a Game Master, it's very important what you understand here is the basics is one, the menu down here, it says no factions configured. What you're going to want to do immediately is to create a faction of what you want playable. You can do all the factions as playable, which honestly I would probably recommend not doing unless you want total chaos. So we're just going to go with the United States off of this. Going to do save, and then first up, what you want to do as obviously the game master is set up your like little forward operating base for your guys where they're going to essentially start their mission. This is arguably one of the most important things in Game Master. So you can do this by having a command post, which acts as a spawn point, which I will show you all right now. As you can see, this is the spawn point all the way up here, and then we're just going to deploy. And voila. Or the other thing that you can do when it comes to setting spawn points is you can click on the faction, and then you can go to spawn point. Now, I would not probably recommend doing this unless you are using things such as a command truck, because command trucks actually do not work in GM to my knowledge. So I would definitely probably place that down and then kind of place the spawn point like right here. However, for reference, what is going to happen is, when you entity clear, like clear dead or destroyed, this will actually 9 times out of 10 be deleted because it is empty. Now, you're going to be going forward into the next step of the GMing is, well, you're going to want to basically, I don't know, set the time, set the weather, all that type of things. So you're going to open back up into your bottom left menu here. Oh, sorry, your edit scenario properties. And with that, you will have this huge menu here where you can actually make it so there are supply usage. I don't really know if this is something that a lot of people use, but I mean, I normally don't for my operations, but it is an option. You can turn off respawn, so if it's a one life operation, we normally do that in our event ops, where once you hit 120, it's one life only. You can use spawn near radio operators, which is actually kind of helpful, but again, if you have helicopters, like players flying around, and you want to do inserts, typically would not do that. If you have a smaller type operation, that's kind of what you would want to do then. Respawn budget, again, you can enable it to supplies, fixed amount, or unlimited for the radios. Now, again, this is also cool if you kind of want to have a mixture of radio operators and inserts. And then the kill feed, you can do unknown killer, disabled, or kill and killed. Honestly, this doesn't really work too much to my knowledge, so I wouldn't really worry too much about that. Next up, we have the global arsenal mode. So that's basically if you can get the officer's cap or a few other things that are not available in conflict. I honestly wouldn't really touch this. And then we have the enabled arsenal types, which again, this is for like all the stuff you can have and things you can save. Same thing with this. I would honestly just like, if you want, some people want to run around with the radar operators, then by all means go ahead. Next up, we have the time of day. Again, you can just change the time of day. You can change it this way as well. And then you can also do a time progression multiplier. So every 5 minutes, it's an hour in the game. And then global brighter night mode, I would probably enable that all the time. Then we have the automate weather, which means weather is going to constantly kind of change. So that's again up to you. And then automated weather or wind. And then lastly here, we have the global bleeding rate, which typically I'll put down to half because you kind of bleed out pretty quickly. And then I would typically do like regeneration speed, probably like 1.5, maybe. It's just for like fun. Next up here, we are going to be going over the essentials when it comes to compositions and your overall budget. So it's very important to understand that the limitations of Arma Reforger's budget system is pretty drastic. As you can see, we have the object budget, which is essentially everything for prompts or compositions. Next up, we have the AI budget, which is going to be also very important to understand, is players eat up this budget too. So essentially, if you are running a 60-player operation, that is going to be 60% of your budget. And honestly, that is insane to me that Reforger has that feature, but there are loopholes that you can kind of do to get around that. So I wouldn't really worry too much about it. I will be showing you later in the video how this works. Now we also have the vehicle budget, which again is you can just place a bunch of vehicles. As you can see, the budget is going up. I don't know why this person is. We're just going to disable that. Now, next up, we are going to have the system budget. The system budget is for respawn points, objectives, arsenals, etc. So what that means is obviously, let's see. Let's see. There we go. Well, I'd actually have to enable a playable faction. But you basically, it's just like arsenals and other things that take up a lot of the space. So every time you place an arsenal, for example, it will go up. And again, if you place an objective or respawn points. Now, these do go up pretty quickly. So that's something that you kind of need to pay attention to. And next up, we're actually going to be going into the tabs here. So what you want to do is open up your tabs, and there are 4 tabs, as you can see here. They're each individual tabs, which is very nice, and it allows you to basically filter things out. So typically, a lot of people, what they like to do is maybe have like a Soviet one where they can place Soviet-based compositions or objects, and then let's say if we want to have one solely just for units and like that. Let me just delete the flag thing because I was looking for a flag earlier to place down. So let's say, see if you actually want to have like just infantry here, and then you want to be able to have all your objects. So it's actually kind of organized, which is really nice. And I found this out last night. Shout out to Shames and Brokey for that. And then again, if you want to basically have it set up so for like vehicles in the next tab, it'll be easier for you to place down vehicles. So it basically, these tabs make it so much easier for you to be able to essentially, well, GM. And honestly, again, I honestly did not know about this, so it's very helpful to know to go forward, because honestly, I was having a very difficult time. Now, I'm going to just demonstrate essentially one of the key features of GMing that you kind of need to understand immediately here. Yeah, so let's just do this real quick. We're going to be sending them forward and then just have them fight. As you can see, it's going to be a budget of like 46. And then we're just going to keep moving, placing, and then you'll see what happens with the overall budget. There we go. Let's just place them all around. So as you can see, we're at 100% already of the budget. Now I'm going to start kind of just like deleting these guys, as in like killing them off. So as you can see, the budget doesn't go down when they die, right? So we're still at 100% budget. All the AI are still fighting. 100% budget, 100% budget, right? So with that 100% budget, you have to, this is one of the most important aspects of GMing, is you're going to, in order to make it fun for your players, you're going to constantly having to be clearing the dead bodies. Okay, for some reason it's not working. There we go. I guess apparently they have to be dead for a couple seconds. As you can see, it's starting to go down. You just can't instantly clear the dead. They have to probably be dead, I would probably say, for like 30 seconds. As you can see, boom, the budget has dropped significantly. Now that's very important to understand, because if you're, one of the big things as a GM is making sure, at least with my operations, you need to make sure your people are having fun. Like if you're going to go assault a town and you kill only maybe 40 enemies, that's really not going to be a lot of fun. So you're going to want to make sure that you're constantly placing things for them to fight. But obviously, depending on the amount of players you have, you're going to want to kind of adjust the scale of difficulty for them. And I'm going to be demonstrating that next. Okay, so next up, we're going to be talking about kind of flow of how scenarios work. So as you can see, there's obviously some Russians inside this tree line. We're going to spawn in some actors here to essentially kind of showcase what I'm talking about here. So let's say you have a rifle squad, right? And they're going to be marching their way through a, let's just have multiple. We're going to be basically dropping stuff throughout here. As you can see, they're probably going to want to come into some fire. Boom, you can place some guys because they can't be seen. What's the most important part as a GM is kind of making sure that when you spawn things for players to fight, they can't quite be seen, okay? So obviously you don't want to have the AI obviously literally spawning directly in front of them, like right on top of them where they can see them. But if you can spawn it in like trees or kind of just behind bushes where they're not going to be seen, that's something that's very, very helpful, and honestly a lot of players will appreciate because, well, immersion. And that's something where a lot of people who play these types of game modes, they're going to like. Now, as you can see, these guys are gonna, let's just say, they just boom, kill all the enemies. Now we're gonna continue forcing them to move forward. Now, it's always not a bad idea, knowing the fact they just cleared guys out ahead of them, you can spawn a little bit more. Boom, right there. So, and the reason why I say this is because they just cleared out Russians here and they're making their way forward. However, again, there are more trees and you can place more guys. So that's kind of what I mean when it comes to the flow of operations. Same thing for here. We could place like a maneuver team right there. And it's basically what it does is just creates a nice natural flow of fighting enemies to get to your objective. Obviously, you're going to want some kind of like flow of how things go in that matter. And yeah, so that's pretty much what you're going to want to do with this. And again, make sure it is constantly kind of action. And if they're being overwhelmed, you'll probably want to just kind of delete some AI that are in the reserves. And realistically, like, don't try to place just like guys behind them like this, especially if they've already cleared this area. Say if they've checked the houses and all that, don't be that guy unless you literally say over the radio, like, hey, this is advisor, you know, there appears to be a Russian convoy coming in from your west. And then obviously they'll be like, oh, okay, there's going to be some Russians coming in from our west. So then, you know, they'll look out for the west side, or just be like, be advised, you know, this is advisor, there's going to be a Russian convoy coming in on the dirt road that you guys recently cleared to the west. You know, it's very helpful, and it kind of helps out the flow of things in the story, because again, you as the GM, your sole like kind of responsibility is to be this, to be the guy in the sky, constantly making sure things are okay, and you're constantly clearing out obviously the dead. And it's so important for that, because I've seen so many GMs also who try to play along during the operations, and that's really not something that is the GM's role. Like, they're not supposed to do that at all. And again, try to make it balanced. Make sure, like, if your players are asking, like, oh, what are we supposed to be encountering? You know, you let them know. Like, are they expecting armor? Are they expecting what? Just, if they ask those questions, make sure you try to help them and tell them that way. So again, same thing with this premise. If they're approaching, let's say if they've taken out all the AI here and they've actually are in a huge open field, the only thing that I would probably say is maybe put some guys, like, you know, on their flanks, because it's not behind them, but it's to like this. It could be controlled by the enemy. Again, it's going to depend on your mission and how you describe things. And same thing here. So like when you actually get inside of these buildings, you can easily place AI inside. And then when it comes to actually placing AI inside of buildings, say if you want people to clear buildings out, I would recommend switching to single entity AIs. As you can see, it is much easier to place them inside of buildings. Now, this is very important because the AI like to run outside of buildings, so I would probably not be placing a lot inside the building unless they are about to be clearing it. Because what happens is you're about to see the AI is all just going to run outside of the building like a bunch of madmen. Now, I don't know if there's really kind of like a way out of this, like a fix, but it's unfortunately kind of what you have to deal with now for the moment in time. Because again, look, the AI just are honestly kind of broken, and it really makes it hard for GMs to do what they want to do. Now, next up, we're going to be going up to the next phase of this, which is basically understanding radio relays and where you need to go as a GM, because this is one important thing where, let's say if your main base is here and your objective is on the other side of the map. You're going to need to build radio relays in order for you to be able to hear people. And again, if you don't, then it's just going to be absolutely useless for you as a GM. Certain amount. And then real quick, I'm going to do a test with you. Where I'm going to teleport myself here, and then you can hear me or not. So, alright. Test, platoon radio. This is Badger 1-1 to Brokey, or Lifeline 1-1. Do you hear me?
This is Lifeline 1-1. Read you loud and clear, Badger 1.
And then he is all the way here. And I am somewhere all the way here, which I would not be able to. One important thing is you making sure you're constantly being able to hear your players over the radio if they're trying to communicate with you, because again, if you're ignoring them, you're literally failing to do your job. Like that's absolutely critical, especially for my units operations and my events or fun ops. That is pretty much key. Like you need to be able to talk to your players and make sure that there's a solid communication between advisor and the players on the ground. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about basically what type of things that you would like, obviously, to build for a base of operations or things like that. One thing I would definitely be kind of like wary of is your placing of a lot of objects inside, let's say, a large city like Montague. So, again, it's obviously, I imagine, yeah, you'll want to make a huge super fortress inside of Montague, but I'm going to be honest with you, with the limitations of console and their frames, you're going to want to kind of make like a Diet Coke version. Constantly making sure that you are asking people like, hey, how's your frames? Obviously, it's Arma. People probably are going to not have the greatest frames sometimes. I know at least for Arma 3 it's like that. But Reforger, it is pretty heavy for the players on the ground that are on console. So like PC, I'm going to be honest, most people are not going to have any issues, but just try to be aware of that when you're making these huge fortresses at the big cities. Like I'd probably just place down, and by the way, it is going to be these sandbags and things like that. When they get destroyed, that will cause the most types of lag. So I would say, honestly, like try to place some things like this in the streets, or just like some centralized area for fighting. Because again, it's going to be very important to try to limit that whole mess of low frame rates. Next up, we're going to essentially talk about the primary responsibilities as the GM. And I know I should have done that the first off, but again, your primary responsibilities as the GM is to make sure that everyone has fun, make sure you're kind of telling a story / like have a solid flow when it comes to the objective. Because again, if you're not doing that, then, well, you're going to have a really hard time when it comes to getting a lot of people to kind of like show up to your events or operations. Because, again, if you really just don't really have a solid flow of things, no one's going to show up. And I'm going to also kind of give some quick tips here. I recommend not filling these up vehicles with a lot of troops. I really don't. What I recommend instead is just placing with a crew, and I don't know why the crew is not being placed in this one. But, okay, so it's in this one, but let me see here. No, yeah, for some reason the AI is not wanting to work with me, so what I'm going to do instead is just put them inside these vehicles. Now, the reason what I'm talking about here is the AI have a really, really difficult time at getting out of vehicles. So I normally leave an empty one for the most part, especially if I'm like, oh, hey, there's some Russian reinforcements coming in from X. But let's say if we have Americans defending, I don't know, here, I'm probably going to just put like at least like 4 guys inside of the, I'll probably put like 4 guys inside of the trucks, and I will show you what I mean, because they have a really, really difficult time actually working. So we're going to force move them all here, have them all nice and dandy. And yeah, so essentially if these are empty trucks that I have, I'm going to place my empty trucks probably like, I don't know, like here, further away. So at least then what happens is they're like, okay, yeah, we know that there's going to be some Russians coming. We can obviously hear the Russians. And then the AI just have a really terrible time at getting out of vehicles. So that's something also you want to make sure that you're properly doing, is making sure that you're kind of like understanding how the AI works, because it is the most frustrating thing as a GM is having AI actually work in this. So as you're going to see, they're going to get engaged. They're going to be forcing their way there because, there we go. And now get out. They're going to be getting out. They normally get out on their own, but if they don't, then, well, you can always just tell them to. So they do an okay job, typically, when it comes to that. But when it comes to actually continuously moving to different objectives, that's a different story. So say if I wanted this truck in the back here to go move somewhere after we kill all of them, they're going to continuously be getting out and getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out, getting in, and it's just going to cause a lot of problems. And again, these guys are on forced moves, so that's why they're doing this. So forced moves is what we're going to be talking about now. Is they're just going to ignore everything. They're just going to drive straight in. As you can see, the AI is having some issues here because of the forced move. So I would not typically do forced move unless you move them to different areas, and the AI also like to typically do some pretty wacky stuff. So what I would recommend is if you want them to, like, let's say blow past the American checkpoint, I would do forced move. Now, and again, for some reason, when you fill up these trucks, the UAZs off-roads, there is always an American in the back. I don't know why, it just is the way it is. So if you want them to just force move, that's what's going to happen. And honestly, let's kind of just force move this guy over here so I can kind of show you what I mean. Because for some reason, this guy's going to take the longer route to get to his objective. I don't know why the AI is like that, but he's going to go the long route. Now, that's something also that you need to pay attention to, is the AI is going to kind of be not your friend, and you have to counter that. So as you can see, he's going to keep going, and he's not going to stop until he gets to objective. That is what forced move does. Now, if you just do a regular move, they'll just stop and strategically kind of get moving their way there, which is also something that's kind of helpful for the most part if you want them to stop and engage. When we do like massive Russian charges, like I'm about to show you here in a second, when we do like a massive charge like this, I would just, well, that's like a very Diet Coke version. These guys will simply run at the enemy and not stop until they reach their objective. I will say this is actually kind of useful if you are doing like a defense operation, like kind of helpful, but not the greatest. Like I'm going to show you, like, see, these guys are just running. Now, in order to make them kind of more effective, when they get a little bit closer, I would stop, have one just regular move, and then have the other one still charging at the enemy, as you can see here. So then they kind of be a little bit more effective, and then these guys are just standing. Now, you see, boom. So it's going to have to be a lot of kind of like micromanaging to make the AI actually useful. And then we have the move to relax, which they're just going to drive pretty slow. As you can see, these guys stopped. These guys were on the regular move. They stopped because they started to hear gunshots, and they were just like, okay, we need to do something about that. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about search and destroy. The AI sweep a given location, eliminating enemies they encounter. So this is pretty useful if you want them to essentially go and clear out like a set of buildings, I guess. We're going to go do that with like 3 different teams. We're going to have them engage some American forces. Americans will defend here. And then we're going to have them search and destroy this area. Now let's have them also kind of just go to separate areas. Boom, boom, bop. Bam. And then next up, we're going to be talking about the defend. So defend is pretty straightforward. As you can see, I gave the Americans a defend order here, and they're kind of just spreading out and defending a given location. Now, this is very helpful, obviously, if you want to have an objective-based, yeah, if you just want to have them defend, that's what you want. You want them to have defend a certain specific area. This is the order you want. Now, as you can see, this big circle, that is what they're going to defend, and they will do that very well. Now, you can see the Russians here are actually searching and destroying. They're doing what they were told to do. They're engaging the Americans, and you can see the Americans are also defending. They're defending this entire area. Granted, they should be actually defending inside the building, but again, due to AI limitations, that's really just the way things are with Arma Reforger, and it's something that you as a GM have to kind of work around. Now, I'm going to show you guys something really, really cool here, is you can do suppressive fire. Yep, suppressive fire is an actual thing, and it does work. As you can see, boom, they're spraying, well, at that building. Not the greatest, but, oh, well, no, they're actually going left to right. I didn't actually know that, so that's new. So as you can see, the AI is going to be spraying like left to right into that general vicinity, and they kind of adjust. That's really cool. So if you want like an area suppressed where, like, let's say there's a lot of Americans behind here, they're shooting, it's going to make it so they get that suppression effect and also tend to hide a little bit more. So that's understanding the AI basics, and again, you're going to want to obviously clear as much as you possibly can because that is the biggest role as the GM. That is the basics to being a better GM and also kind of understanding the flow of things, so you actually have a really good and engaging operation, event, or fun op. And as well, and out of the 7th Legion, that is pretty much a standard guide. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If this was very helpful, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time.